bit behind schedule, but we're here now. Apologies. Therefore, straight into business. And my guest this morning is Dr. Murtala Ahmed Rufai. Dr. Rufai is an academic, a conflict researcher at Uthman Danfodio University in Sokoto. A fine morning to you, Doctor.
Hello, good morning to you over there.
Thank you very much. My name is Yori Folani in the Lagos studio here. And we want to talk about security, and specifically about, well, you know, we especially as it relates to banditry, you know, across the country, across Nigeria. It's something we've been contending with quite a long while. We've looked for all sorts of solutions, all sorts of fresh ideas, and that's why I was particularly happy when I knew that we would be speaking with a researcher, a conflict researcher in an institution of higher learning. And I'm just hoping that with the benefit of research, there are some things, new approaches that we could look at. Now, let me start from the fact that a lot of people, we've captioned this particular talk, Amnesty for Bandits, Pros and Cons. There are those who will say, out of hand, there are no cons to it at all. What do you mean pros and cons? People have said severally that there is no benefit whatsoever to giving amnesty to bandits. We've tried that before. It hasn't worked. It has only worked for a little while, and then we've gone back to where we were. In fact, they came back with a vengeance. So let me just start from there, sir. Are there indeed any pros, given Nigeria's experience, to granting bandits amnesty?
Well, thank you very much, and good morning for having me.
Thank you.
It is really important to dissect this issue and dissect it very clearly and very closely.
Okay.
The issue of amnesty to the bandits, to negotiate or not to negotiate, for instance, to provide the amnesty or not to provide it, it is actually a matter of debate. But in my own personal opinion, the process has actually already started. We've seen situations and instances where people were released without paying a dime. Then the fundamental question is, how do we get these people out from these bad guys? It's basically through dialogue, it's basically through negotiation, and of course, basically through interaction. By extension, the process has started, and it is indeed good and better for us to continue. Rather than doing it sideline, we should open it up and do it properly. Let it be done, in my opinion, the way it should be done. We have tested the kinetic approach for more than 13, 14 years ago. It hasn't worked. We have not seen in a very clear term the results and benefits of this kinetic approach. The security agencies, right from the beginning, have engaged these people. And there are people propagating and promoting the idea of neutralization. For instance, there are actually people promoting and also agitating for the use of the kinetic approach. And that is what we are doing. Within the kinetic approach again, we go into elimination method. How do we identify a leader and eliminate him? With the thinking that if we eliminate the leader, the foot soldiers will actually be neutralized or accept the idea of stopping what they are doing. So this elimination method has been there for long. It hasn't worked. The kinetic approach is also there. And in my opinion, it did not actually achieve the desired results. Then the fundamental issue now, why can't we give this issue of amnesty, this issue of dialogue and negotiation a try? Instead of doing it the way we are doing it now, we should open it up and do the right thing, engage the right people, get terms and conditions for the engagement, and let there be a detailed and comprehensive program like any other program that will engage these people. I am not in any way supporting what they are doing. Neither am I promoting or speaking for what they are doing. But what I am saying, the killings are enough. The bloodsheds are indeed enough. Why can't we give it a trial? And when we look at the history, for instance, people don't look at the history of even the amnesty closely as it relates to bandits. Believe me, on the 25th of December 2016, I was an eyewitness of an amnesty program that happened in rural part of Zamfara, specifically in Zurmi local government area. That amnesty, it is on record. You can Google and see it. That was when we see the first generation of bandit leaders, about 1,000 of them, which I really have their names as we speak, accepted the amnesty program, submitted there and then, my brothers and sisters, submitted there and then their arms to the states. And I'm sure some of the military officers in Nigeria will bear me witness of what happened. That program was properly done, properly arranged, and then those that actually submitted their arms were 100% comfortable with the process of the engagement.
Okay.
Unfortunately, along the line, there was problem. And that problem actually continued to the extent that last time I counted, over 200 of them have actually returned to the act of armed banditry. And if you talk to them about negotiation today, they will tell you that they are not really comfortable because initially they participated actively. They submitted their arms willingly, but they were betrayed along the line. And that is the fear some of them are exercising.
Okay. Now, it's clearly this, that's why it's very important that we're speaking with you as an expert and a conflict researcher, because a lot of people have impressions and opinions, but that's different from a scholar who is looking at it and will be having empirical evidence. Now, one aspect of this situation is that there's a federal government aspect to this. I think when the army speaks, we can assume that, they are speaking on behalf of the federal government as it relates to, conflict resolution and their assessment of it. Now, according to the Chief of Army Staff, addressing the nation, I think it was, last year, very, very shortly after, President Tinubu had assumed duty. And he was saying that it simply wasn't working, that you say, the bandits say that they are being betrayed. The Chief of Army Staff was saying that there are instances of this not having worked in the past. Now, that's on one side. And I mentioned the fact that federal government is involved here because the bandits are principally in certain states. And the states seem to have varying degrees of success. It hasn't been very, very rosy in Zamfara as far as results are concerned. But I do note, somebody pointed out to me that how come it seems to work in Kano State, for example? What was the magic in Kano State? Because it is asserted that it did work in Kano State. First of all, you will have these facts. Is it true, first of all, that it worked in Kano State? And if that is true, why is it not able to work as easily in other states like Zamfara, Katsina, and some surrounding states?
Well, I don't think, to the best of my research, there was an amnesty or a dialogue program in Kano.
Okay.
I don't think there is something like that.
Okay.
But what I have seen in Kano that I have not seen in other places is Kano was 100% proactive with the emergence of armed banditry in 2011. All measures were put in place in Kano, and that explains the reasons why Kano is, within the perspective of armed banditry, 100% safe. There are a lot of security operations.
Okay, well, you saw that it froze there.
Other important activities actually going on in Kano. And that is what explains the reasons for the safety of Kano. But more importantly, Kano doesn't have a border relations with Zamfara.
Okay.
And I have said it, and I will keep on saying it. All states with bordering Zamfara actually pay a price of being close to Zamfara. The entire areas that shares border between Sokoto and Zamfara, for instance, are not safe up till today. You start from areas around Rabah, East Sabon Birni, Gwaranyo, all these areas are not safe. And you talk to the people of these areas today, they will tell you that they don't have major bandit camps in their areas. Go to Kebbi, look at Southern Kebbi, for instance. The entire Zulu Emirates, around Onashi, around Tadurga, around other areas, were at a point in time on a very serious crisis of banditry. And they will tell you that these bandits were infiltrating from Zamfara. Katsina has its own share because of the border relations. Kaduna has its own share because of what? Basically because of the border relations. So what I am saying in essence is that Zamfara happens to be the epicenter.
Okay.
And that explains the reason why no matter amount of measures, policies, and programs that were put in those states, if the problem of Zamfara is not adequately and properly addressed, I don't see peace in the neighboring states.
Okay.
In the past, there were dialogues and amnesty in Katsina, but it was not done the way it should be done. There was also another one in Sokoto. It was haphazardly done for political reasons and for political motive. The Kaduna State Governor, former Governor of Kaduna State, Malam El-Rufai, he said no to amnesty. He promoted the idea of the neutralization theory. He promoted the idea of what? The idea of the kinetic approach. But that has not in any way reduced the scale of violence. So my line of argument now is, instead of allowing individual states to negotiate, instead of allowing individual states to carry out the amnesty program, armed banditry is a national security threat. Armed banditry is a national security issue.
Okay, we do apologize for the network issues.
In my opinion, address national. I am not saying that they are not criminal. They are.
Okay, there clearly are network bandwidth issues. So sorry about that. We'll see if Dr. Rufai can get.
Hello?
Yes. Okay. Please continue. It seems to have.
Yes.
Come back.
I said the fundamental issue is it has to be approached as a national issue. And
okay.
then it has to be done also, in my opinion, the way it should be done. Why? Because we have seen successes recorded through the kinetic approach in recent times, particularly with the emergence of this administration. Believe in me, some of the bandit leaders were actually taken over, were actually neutralized. I can give you names. Those that were killed either by the military or by the bandits themselves.
Okay.
Where is Ali Kawaja today?
Okay.
Ali Kawaja is no more.
Okay, Dr. Rufai, I'm going to come back to you.
Damana is taken away.
Could I have 1 second? Could I just come in for a second? I'm going to come back to you on something that you said, because you said the federal government, I mean, this should be approached nationally. And it's good you said that, because I was going to ask you that, look, part of the problem might be that states seem to have their own programs as opposed to having a coordinated kind of action. So as you said, Zamfara being the epicenter, when they put pressure in Zamfara, you know, people escape into Sokoto, escape into Kaduna, and all those border states, because they are able to do that because they seem to be taking these actions one after the other. But I'm going to come back and we'll develop on that issue, and you'll give me the benefit of your opinion. But in the meantime, George in Ikeja has called in. Good morning, Mr. George.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Yeah.
Good morning to the Prof.
Yes.
Uncle Yori, when you say amnesty, it presupposes that the person involved or the persons involved are asking for forgiveness. That is not the case here. We used to have Niger Delta agitators. They were asking for development in their area because the oil that Nigeria generates is from that region, and the region is underdeveloped. That is what was the basis of the agitation. That one calls for amnesty. An amnesty program was designed for them to send them to school, to make them, give them jobs, and it's been working. But what is the basis of amnesty for a bandit? What is the bandit asking for? These are just simple criminals. And in some states that they have been tried, like the professor himself said, it didn't work. Criminal is a criminal, irrespective of any form of negotiation you do with him.
Okay.
The only language a criminal understands is force. He himself, the speaker himself, has acknowledged that since the new government came in, there has been improvement in the elimination of these bandits. It just goes to suggest that if that one is, intensified, these criminals will be gotten rid of. I don't believe in negotiating with bandits, sending. Okay, please permit me to say this. You can see recently there was this incident of people agitating for Yoruba nation, and it became violent. What happened? The community leaders, the elders, the people who know them, they exposed all of them and asked the security men to take care of them. Within minutes, they were arrested and disciplined. It's not so in many parts of the north. They know these people, they know their names, they know their camps, they interact with them. They will not give security people intelligence. How is it going to be eradicated? That's my view.
All right, then. Oh, thank you very much for calling in, Mr. George. Dr. Rufai, can you hear us? Did you hear that contribution?
Yes.
Okay. So the first thing I'd like to ask you, arising from that contribution, is that that viewer sought to know what this amnesty that you are proposing would entail, because it has been criticized in the past by Nigerians, because we didn't start this journey yesterday, that they were being given too much. And I know that people who had said that might not have been specialists, because what is too much when it comes to a peace? But they want, the Nigerians seem to think that you can't really trust anymore. So could you start, please, by telling what the amnesty that is being considered now might entail?
Thank you very much. A very good and in-depth study of armed banditry in northern Nigeria will demonstrate to you clearly that there are different interest bandit groups in the northwestern Nigeria and even in northern Nigeria generally. There are those that are 100% criminals, motivated by criminal intention, motivated by the need for money and, of course, promotion of the bandit economy. And that is what they are doing for a living.
You know what, Dr. Rufai, I don't want you to be interrupted. So permit me, I'll go on a quick break now so that we'll come back and then you'll be able to take it at a stretch without any interruptions. Do please stay with us. We'll be right back We'll continue to take your calls when we get back.
News Weekend lineup. TVC Breakfast Saturday with Kemi Fola Adeyemo and Emmanuel Ajayi. Political Standpoint with Precious Amayo. Newsweek with Mark Otabo and Jacinta Ugochukwu. Politics on Sunday with Femi Akonde. Community Forum with Sarah Yeku. Get ready for the biggest stories, fresh perspectives, and burning news discussions that round up the weekend. Only on TVC News.
First with breaking news.
Believe that working people around the world have real questions of their own. They want to know how the world of work operates, what it means to the employer of labor, how policies affect workers in the workplace. On Labor Lens, I ensure we engage effectively the organized labor, organized private sector, and governments to get out of them information workers are in need of. I am Sharon Ijason, asking questions that make you get sense of the workplace.
Okay, welcome back, and our guest is Dr. Murtala Ahmed Rufai, an academic and conflict researcher at Usman Danfodio University in Sokoto, and we are looking at the merits and demerits of, amnesty as a concept. So we're looking at amnesty for bandits, the pros and the cons, and it's important we discuss this subject the way we are doing, because many people have dismissed it, not out of hand, but through practical experience of it not having worked. Even our guest, Dr. Rufai, has said that he will admit that it has had challenges in the past. Many people, many Nigerians feel that we've been given too much to the bandits. That's the way they look at it. And just before we had to go on break, Dr. Rufai was elaborating on an aspect of a question that had come in a contribution from Mr. George, who called in from Lagos, about what this amnesty might possibly entail. I had to interrupt him to go to break. So perhaps you'd like to return to continue on that aspect of what a proposed amnesty would even entail.
Thank you very much. As I said earlier, we tend to provide a single nomenclature for all the arm-bearing groups in the northwestern Nigeria. As what? As bandits. I am not disputing the fact that there are criminals. And the criminals amongst them constituted about, let's say, 50 to 60%.
But sir, when you say criminals, sorry sir, when you say criminals among the bandits, aren't they all criminals by definition? If you
that's where I'm going to. That is where I'm going to.
Okay.
What I'm saying is there are people we call bandits that are bearing arms, but they will tell you, and very clearly, their arms are basically for self-defense. And they constituted about 30 to 40% of these people, but we give them a single nomenclature called bandits. Those people that bears arms for self-defense, they are defending themselves against the bandits in the forest because their economy is basically rural and forest-based. You decide to disarm them today, they will be killed by these bandits. So that particular categorization, I feel, is important, and it needs to be done. Then secondly, there are those also with genuine grievances. Genuine grievances because of their lack of understanding of how to channel these grievances properly and adequately through the right channel. They tend to carry arms. We also call them bandits, but they are not in any way engaged in cattle rustling. Neither are they engaged in armed banditry, nor are all also engaged in the kidnapping, not to talk about gender-based and the sexual violence. So what I am saying in essence is that we really need to come out with an approach that will identify these people. Who are we going to talk to? Who actually requires and also is open for this dialogue?
Okay.
And basically, and very importantly, we have seen some of these groups coming out clearly on social media platforms saying that they are ready for dialogue.
Okay.
They are ready for negotiation.
These bandits have made an approach themselves that they want to reopen negotiations. Is that what you're saying, sir?
Yes, there are quite a number of them that are open for it. But in my opinion, just like I said, previous negotiations were not negotiations, in my opinion, other than Tea Party. Every governor in the Northwest affected by armed banditry wants to get close to the bandits, snap pictures with them, and also create publicity because they actually want to be politically relevant.
Well, dialogue. Now, this is where they're mixing up all sorts of things, and I can imagine that it really will require expertise to sort it out. As you've just explained, different categories. First of all, they become a law unto themselves. When I say law unto themselves, nobody in other parts of the country, for example, is going to bear arms because this place is not America, where they allow people to bear arms for self-protection. But the situation up in the country, up north, is different. And so even though there's no law enabling them, permitting them so to bear these arms, they still have to do it because we're being practical and pragmatic here. And I don't think anybody is going to waste their time telling them about them breaking the law. This is a matter of life and protection. So it seems to me that it's quite an intricate issue. But I wanted to throw in a further factor, Doctor. The accusation, or that is what the allegation that the part that politicians are playing in the continuation of this state of unrest should not be de-emphasized. There are people in whose interest it is not for all of this to have gone away. How would you evaluate that? Is that a real concern, or do you think people are exaggerating that particular aspect of politicians also being behind all of these troubles that we have?
That is a fact, and also an undisputable fact, supported by hard evidence. There are actually people out there that don't want this issue to end because they are milking from it, because the entire conflict is being commodified. Some of them are basically transactional. Some of them are benefiting from this bandit and also benefiting from the bandit economy.
Which complicates our problem. Which complicates our problem, doesn't it?
Say again?
I said that complicates our problem of seeking a solution.
That complicates our problem, but more importantly now, we have seen the emergence of a new regime or a new government in Nigeria that has shown and demonstrates commitments across boards in ending this problem. Then instead of...
Oh dear. Okay, it froze again. Let me use the opportunity to put Ada in Jos on, and also apologize to Mazi Okoroafo, who held on for such a long time for Dr. Rufai to land. And I'm so sorry that you had to cut away Mazi Okoroafo. Good morning, Ada in Jos.
Good morning, Yuri and Professor Rufai. It's Ada calling from Jos State. I've been listening with keen interest, you know. I don't even understand what the prof is even saying. Well, on the one hand, it looks as if he's trying to say that there's a kind of negotiation that will make it possible for them to abandon banditry. Okay, if he has one, let him tell us exactly what it is, because I don't even know what it is.
I think essentially, Ada, I think what Dr. Rufai is telling us is that overtures are coming from the, well, shall we say, forests, from the camps themselves, that, look, we want a rapprochement. And he is saying that we need to take it up. Dr. Rufai, did I categorize it properly?
Okay, he's saying that the ones in the forest, they now say they want
yes.
to negotiate, is it?
Yes.
Then is it all of them from that forest that is coming out? Because he kind of categorized them. He said they are in groups or whatever, you know. So the ones you're talking about, is it piecemeal? The only way it can work, if you ask me, is that if all of them are coming out, and then they cannot negotiate with the government what we can do. If there's anything we can do to have peace, fine. But the problem is that, are they ready to even receive any amnesty? Because it has been done in the past, and they still go back to the bush. I know of one story of one that was even, the governor of one of the states in the north, took him in and employed him and all that. And after some months, he went back. He went back because the money they're collecting is so much. But I know for one that the sponsors, we have to go after the sponsors because it is business. And why it is so much in states that have mineral and stuff like Zamfara is because they are sponsors. When they bring this idea of banditry, they now have access to those minerals or what have you. That is what is happening. So it has become a business. There is a merchandise now. And then why the army is not even making a lot of impact in terms of going after them is that it's done piecemeal. If the army is serious, let the federal government bring our money, even if it's 1 week, let us put everybody on hold and let them now do a coordinated kind of meeting simultaneously in all those adjoining states. Not they go to Zamfara, piecemeal, they run to Kaduna, they reinforce there, go back to Zamfara. That is what has been happening. So that's why we can deal with this thing once and for all. Their own amnesty is not like Nigeria Delta. Let's not mix it up. Or it's let's not give up Nigeria. Okay, it will get better.
Thank you very much for calling in, Ada. You heard that, Dr. Rufai, but let me go back to the very important point that you made, that actually you are getting overtures now from some of those people who seem to be, I think battle fatigue has set in, and would like, it seems to me that what they're really asking for is, if these people are saying, look, let's talk. You can trust us. Now, people are wary. So how is it going to be handled? Because this is an opening, and that's why we're even talking about this. That's why we're saying amnesty for bandits, pros and cons. You yourself have said that it has failed in the past. Everybody knows that it has failed in the past, but you are optimistic, principally, I think, because you say we've tried other approaches and nothing has worked. And so we need to look at this very critically. So how would we go?
You see, as I said earlier, we really need to understand the category and the classification of these bandits. Those that are actually causing havoc and that are not also ready to submit to the states and stop what they are doing, in my own opinion, constituted a smaller percentage of people we call the bandits. And even among them, we have seen some of the leaders calling for dialogue, calling for negotiation, saying either directly or indirectly that, look, they are sick and tired of this game. They want to let it go. And that is the reason why whenever and wherever there are abductions, you see the victims released unharmed, for instance, without paying a dime, because those that were ready to dialogue were actually reached out to. They might not be responsible for the abduction, but they have control over those that are not ready for the dialogue. And on that basis, they were used to reach out to those that are not ready for it. The philosophy behind this dialogue that I'm talking about, believe in me, we don't have an excellent understanding of the bandit phenomenon in northern Nigeria. The fundamental fear and concern exercised by the military is nothing other than the rate of the collateral damage. Ladies and gentlemen, we have seen what happened in Tudunbiri. And we have seen the way and manner international communities come in. Because of what? Because of the rate and also the level of the collateral damage. These bandits are actually operating. Initially, they were in the forest. But as we speak today, they have fused into the communities. If you want to deal with them decisively, it implies that about 20% of our rural communities must go, meaning they actually need to be evacuated, need to be dealt with, and also need to be eradicated completely from the surface of the earth. Then the fundamental question is, how do we go about it? The Nigerian security agencies are finding it very difficult to identify who is actually a bandit and who is not. This mentality that we are still having is that the bandits are living in the forest. Yes, they were in the forest in the past, but today some of them are in the rural areas, interrelating and interacting with the communities. And this brings us to what? It brings us to the issue of the ungoverned spaces that we are talking about. You see a whole village, for instance, without the presence of the state, no a single policeman, not even an army or a soldier, not even any form of security personnel. And these areas are to some extent under the bandit rule, or what I call under the bandit regime. They have no option other than to dine with devils.
Okay.
They have no other than to relate with the bandits, because the state presence in those places is zero. Then what do you expect them to do? So on the issue of the amnesty that happened in the past, in my opinion, as a conflict researcher, I don't see an amnesty or a negotiation that happened in the past. What the governors did was not in any way amnesty.
Okay.
And some of
it's interesting. Okay.
My last.
Even though we.
Let me just please land. In some of these states, we have seen where rest houses were built for bandits that were sick and tired of the game in the forest to come and stay for a while. If they actually get refreshed, they go back to the field.
All right.
Can we call that negotiation, or can we call it dialogue?
All right.
Some of these states,
you know what? Even though we put the number on, perhaps people are concentrating so much on what you're saying that some miss the fact that we put the number on. So some people have reached in to say that, what number can we get this program on? It's 0812-531-6967. 0812-531-6967. We put it on the screen, but perhaps people have missed it because they were concentrating so much on what you were saying. Now, how about Sheikh Gumi, for instance? There was a time when he said, you know what? I'm not going to be involved with them anymore, especially as government has called them terrorists. I don't know if you have information as to whether he has reconsidered his stance and whether efforts like that are still needed. And most importantly, are you saying, sir, that the adjoining states, that have a border with Zamfara, the governments there, are now ready to listen to overtures from these bandits again? Continue, sir.
Sheikh Gumi was actually and is still, in my opinion, he is doing that because he was opportune to go to the forest to see the number, the influence, the level of arms and ammunition these people were able to acquire. He has seen the level of territorial control, community support these bandits were able to gain over time. Then, for that particular reason, he was with Dogo Kide at a point in time. He has seen the level of mobilization. He has seen the level of lawlessness in some of these places, and how these bandits came out in mass to welcome him. And he feels no amount of military pressure will neutralize these people, will deal with these people decisively without even getting the required intelligence.
Okay, but he has said that he has withdrawn. He has said he has withdrawn all his efforts. But there's one caller, I apologize to Mazio Korafo, but then he's come on again. Mazio Korafo, welcome back and thank you very much for your efforts. Mazi, 1 minute.
Good morning, sir. Good morning. See, let us call a criminal, call the reality. Boris Johnson, when he came to Nigeria, he said all these bandits, whether kidnappers, all of them are terrorists. They are nothing like a kidnapping or not. Somebody are taking arms is a terrorist. Backed up by politicians, they are all terrorists. Those people that went and kill people, innocent souls, they are all terrorists. And these people they left behind, victims, they are widows and widowers. Now tell me, after 9 months, they will come back and reflect themselves and go back to people. Are they not terrorists? Now, tell me, what are you surrendering? If you say what to say, you want to bring them back and bring them to the society. Why not all those prisoners in the cell? Free them now, those who are waiting trials.
All right then, Mazio Korafo, I beg your pardon because I did say we don't have the time. I would have liked you to continue, but we got what you are saying, that you can't see any difference between these outlaws, criminals, even though Dr. Rufai said that we need to segment them. Unfortunately, we're fast running out of time. We have only very little less than 2 minutes more. It's been an interesting conversation, but you can see that it's something of an uphill task simply because of the experience we've had. So I'd like to ask you, what's the progress that you think you are getting with the governments, the state governments now that will have to action these suggestions, if they will, if they first of all buy them? What's the reception you're getting there? Is it cold, lukewarm, or quite frankly, red hot?
You see, we have seen the emergence of a new set of governors in the Northwest. Of course, in Sokoto, in Zamfara, in Kebbi, in Katsina, and even Kaduna. And what do we see? We are seeing high sense of coordination, high sense of collaboration amongst these governors. And this is something.
Well, we've almost
looking at the possibility of dialogue is actually, in my opinion, a very good idea, because the military have actually engaged these people and they have engaged them for so long. But the result is, in my opinion, not satisfying enough.
Okay.
So now, with the emergence of the federal government, this new administration, and also with the relationship we are seeing between federal and states, there is every possibility that we need to sit down and disaggregate and desegregate these people.
Well, we're going to have to leave it there. I beg your pardon. We're going to have to leave it there, Dr. Rufai. It's been quite an interesting, almost an hour or so. We're going to have to leave it there. But it seems to me this would, because could I just slip in very, very quickly, maybe not more than 1 or 2 sentences. What do the traditional rulers in those areas think about this whole idea?
Yeah, you see, the traditional rulers are studying the body language of the governors because they are answerable to the governors. But if you sit down with them, get their candid opinion, they will tell you that the best option is to negotiate.
All right, then. Let's leave it there. I know there's more, but let's leave it there. I do beg your pardon. We simply have to leave it there. They are studying the body language of the governors, but that they know this option that research is showing, it might well be the way to go. I want to thank you very much, Dr. Muritala Ahmed Rufai, conflict researcher and academic at Usman Danfodio University in Sokoto. Thank you very much, sir, for your time. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yes. So that's our program today. Do please join us tomorrow for a